On this episode of China Uncensored, China hacks again! Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. Chinese state-backed computer hackers have hit the U.S. government, Western businesses, and human rights organizations. But that was just small-time stuff. The hackers from the Chinese government have just hit what is clearly their greatest enemy and the absolute biggest threat to China.
Pure traditional Chinese culture. Shen Yun.
That was a clip from Shen Yun, a classical Chinese dance and music show that travels around the world. According to their press release, they were the victims of a massive cyber attack from China. Although it's very hard to say for sure who exactly is behind this kind of cyber assault, it does follow the pattern of previous attacks that have been linked back to the Chinese military. Just like Ben's pattern of eating other people's lunches in the office fridge. Ben, we know it was you! So, why would the Chinese authorities target a dance group? Poor risk assessment? Actually, no. The Communist Party has, from the very beginning, known the power of the arts. They have this pesky ability to make people think, be inspired even. That's why the party waged specific campaigns like the Cultural Revolution to eradicate traditional Chinese culture, burning books, smashing relics, banning the teaching of traditional arts. You know, generally destroying people's faith in a traditional culture that had lasted thousands of years and produced one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever seen. No big loss, only countless treasures and thousands of years of knowledge that may never be recovered. Now, Shen Yun's mission is to revive that authentic traditional Chinese culture. So that probably gets them on the Chinese Communist Party's blacklist. And according to the same press release, some of the dances depict the Communist Party's persecution of Falun Gong practitioners inside China, and many of the performers themselves are Falun Gong practitioners. I've talked before about how former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin launched a campaign to imprison and torture people who practice Falun Gong. So, if they talk about Falun Gong, I wonder if that's the reason the show is banned in China. One thing this cyber attack tells me is that despite Chinese leader Xi Jinping purging members of the Jiang Zemin faction that began the persecution of Falun Gong, it's still going pretty strong. But the hacking of Shen Yun is actually part of a serious problem that affects everyone. According to China cyber intelligence expert James Mulvenin, in July 1999, the exact month when the Communist Party began targeting Falun Gong on a large scale, 2 Canadian Falun Gong websites were attacked by Chinese hackers. An American one was hit shortly after. The address of the hackers was traced back to the location of the Ministry of Public Security. Mulvenin says this was likely the first public case of direct Chinese state-sponsored hacking. Years later, a defector from the 610 office, the Gestapo-like agency charged with eradicating Falun Gong, confirmed this in an interview with China researcher Ethan Gutman. These Chinese hackers, that a Congressional advisory board called the single greatest risk to the security of American technologies, that have hit the New York Times, U.S. government and defense system, stolen the intellectual property of corporations around the world, may have gotten their start by attacking overseas Falun Gong websites. They just grow up so fast. Next thing you know, they'll be able to hack my Second Life character. No! Turns out, though, that many Falun Gong practitioners are actually pretty skilled with computers themselves. They created software called FreeGate that people throughout China use to break through the internet firewall. It's also been adopted by internet users in other repressive regimes around the world, like Egypt, Burma, and to particularly good effect during the massive protests in Iran in 2009. Of course, there are plenty of times when the Chinese internet overlords are not as skilled. In January last year, instead of blocking the website where you can download FreeGate, Chinese censors accidentally rerouted the entire Chinese internet there. Clearly, the Chinese government doesn't want us to see Shen Yun. I think I'll buy my tickets now. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.